Hi guys, so let's now take a look at monopolistic competition. In this lesson we're going to look at the long run equilibrium output. We'll also get on to some analysis and evaluative points, but we may well split this up into two lessons. So let's take a look at what monopolistic competition actually is. Firstly, it combines elements of monopoly and competitive markets. Now, this means that you have a differentiated product as well as freedom of entry and exit to the actual marketplace. So the barriers to entry, they're not likely to be as low as in perfect competition, but they are likely to be low. Okay, great examples with regard to monopolistic firms are things such as B&Bs, as well as hotels, as well as if you consider sellers on Etsy, for instance. So they provide really good, clear examples of people who make crafts and have differentiated products which they sell to the market. There's low barriers to entry for those individuals. Okay, there's a differentiated product in line with our key assumptions here. There's many firms, low barriers to entry, and they're able to set the price because of this differentiated product. So this really does fit in with that point there. And then finally, there is imperfect information. Okay, so this really means that not all of the information is necessarily available, although technology does of course improve information, and that does mean comparison for consumers as well as businesses is perhaps far easier than it used to be. Okay, so that one's a little bit weaker, I'd say. Okay, so let's have a look at the long run monopolistic outcome. First thing to bear in mind, demand equals average revenue is going to be quite elastic. Now, you want to reflect the fact that there are many firms, therefore there are many different alternatives as to where consumers can actually buy and consume these products. So therefore, it's going to be a relatively elastic demand curve. Now, in any essay on this, you will want to show that you truly get that you truly understand that point. That is really significant. And if you draw a relatively elastic demand curve, you would want to explain why it is relatively elastic, because most students will not be able to identify the reason for which it is more elastic. Okay, now in addition we want to highlight our marginal revenue curve, and then we want to, number 3, put in our marginal cost point and then identify the point where MC equals MR, and that will help us to determine our output level, of course. So we can highlight our level of output that is actually being generated. Let's just put that down. So we've got Q, monopolistic as well. Super, looking good. Now, we can then put in our average cost curve, and we need to make sure that that average cost curve runs tangential to this point, because remember, these firms make normal profits. We want average cost to equal average revenue, but we must bear in mind that the average cost must intersect with the marginal cost at its lowest point. Let's be technically accurate here. So here we go. Right, that's looking pretty good. So it's a relatively flat average cost curve that we can see there. We've got that point where AC equals AR, average cost equals average revenue, and of course that is really significant because it means the firm does not make supernormal profits. In addition to this, we've got this area of deadweight economic loss, and we can highlight that there. Okay, this is really looking pretty tip-top, guys. I'm happy with this. Let's move it along, consider some of the advantages of this. Now, first up, there's a differentiated product. That's nice for consumers. We like to have products that are different. We like to have some choice, and that can be advantageous, particularly against the rather bland lack of choice with homogeneous goods in perfect competition. This term, you may have come across it as heterogeneous as well, so it simply means different. Okay, now that is opposed to homogeneous goods, of course, in perfect competition. Second point, contestable market. It's a contestable market, and therefore the threat of new market entry will help to keep prices relatively low in this marketplace because there's low barriers to entry. So that can be important for consumers. Now the downsides, however, and you can see there's a number that I've put down. Firstly, it's allocatively inefficient. Okay, there's a deadweight economic loss generated. Okay, so that's significant. It's not productively efficient because we're not at our lowest point on our average cost curve, which is of course there. Okay, in addition to this, the firm will actually attempt to build a really strong brand and show the market why they're different and why you should be using their products in particular. And so this brand building and non-price competition methods result in higher prices for consumers. So it means the price level is above that of what we would expect in a competitive market, of course, where price equals marginal cost. Now, in addition to this, we can see this point regarding average cost equals average revenue here. So that simply means the firm is only making normal profits in the long run. That would be the situation because if they were making supernormal profits, well, there's low barriers to entry, and as such, new firms would enter the marketplace and the prices would come down. So that's significant, okay? Right. There's therefore a lack of dynamic efficiency, a lack of reinvestment, a lack of improvement of the product over the longer term. So that's significant. So we've got some excellent evaluation points now. Take you right to the top end of the mark scheme. So how important is product differentiation? So how important is that to consumers? How much do we truly value that? Obviously, it depends. It's nice to have that choice, certainly, okay? And it's nice to have a range of products to actually choose from and price and quality points to actually work with. So, yeah, it does mean that customers are better catered for in the end, though. Number two, brand building and advertising. There's a potential waste of resources there. So how effective and how necessary is that really in developing that differentiated product? Is that really desirable? It means the price goes up, the output goes down. So there we go. Number three, it's not suitable in some markets, as is not perfect competition, of course, when it comes to, say, for instance, a natural monopoly market. So it is not appropriate for this small type of firm to go about building, say, something like the Eurotunnel or the Crossrail project or something like that. Okay. And number four, some monopolistic firms will actually make long-run supernormal profit. So this is a great point to bear in mind. 98% of the students in the country will not know this, but some firms in monopolistic competition do actually make long-run supernormal profits. How do they do that? Well, it's the strength of the differentiation of their product. Perhaps we're dealing with a cliff-top hotel here, where it's very, very difficult to actually compete, and this barrier to entry actually becomes far, far higher as a result of that. Or it could be perhaps a B&B within a particular natural park, nature reserve, or a state natural park where, or it could be within a park facility where it's an area of outstanding natural beauty, no new building is allowed, but yet there's this beautiful building perhaps which is available on Airbnb. So it could be as a result of those barriers to entry that these firms could actually make supernormal long-run profit. And if that is the case, is that in the best interest of consumers? Will that profit be reinvested to improve things in the future? Of course, it depends, as ever in economics. Great stuff, guys. See you next time.